All right, everyone, here we are. I'm here to talk about my second ayahuasca journey. If you have not seen my first video, I recommend going to give that a watch. My very first time doing ayahuasca was in 2022, so if you're entirely new, that's a good place to start. So let's get into round two. When I did my first Aya journey in 2022, I was living in Texas at the time, and it was right before I was moving to Bali. So it was for me kind of this big send off, or that's kind of the intention I was going into it with. But now that I'm reflecting on it more, there were a lot of things that needed cleanup and organizing and healing that I didn't realize I was not even ready for in the first ceremony. So that first time was 3 journeys over a weekend. And just as a quick summary, they were intense. They were quite challenging for me. It happened to be like a freak storm weekend in Texas. It was freezing cold. It was raining. It was like that cold wet that goes deep into your bones. And with ayahuasca, you're fasting. So I was so hungry my first time, didn't know what to expect, and it was so cold. And we didn't bring enough blankets and layers, to be honest. We came a little bit unprepared because it was so unusual for Texas to have something like that. And the journeys themselves were challenging. I think I struggled with a lot of the physical components of it, trying to get out from under the blankets to purge, a lot of resistance, a lot of hesitation. And to be honest, I don't think I was ready to face some of the deeper layers that needed to be healed in that experience. And so I think she brought up, she being ayahuasca, as much as she could on that first round, knowing it was my first round and knowing that there was going to be more to come. So I didn't know it at the time, but it was kind of like a pregame. It was a preamble for more healing that needed to come down the line. Just getting rid of things in my life that don't support me, that were just not elevating me to who I knew I could be. And at that time, I don't think I was ready to make that change. And I think that's one of the big takeaways from myself that I want to convey to everyone else, is that if you're going to go into a journey like this with ayahuasca or any major plant medicines, you need to come with the mindset that this is for healing and change. This is for big transformation. And so it's going to require honesty and vulnerability, and in general, a willingness to see yourself and your relationships in a potential new light. And if I were to be radically honest with myself from where I stand now, I can see that I was not in that mindset when I went into that first round of healing in 2022. I think I was in an energy of control and hesitation and withholding. And so it kind of met me in an unusual way because it needed to shake me out of my desire to control the journey or the experience. As much as I said I had an open mind and an open heart, I don't think that I really did. So this second round was a lot different because, first of all, the shamans were from Brazil. We worked on native land, a beautiful facility and grounds, and the owners of the land journeyed with us. And I thought that was really special to have the people that are the stewards of the place in the journey with you. So I thought that was really nice. And the people that I worked with are the Huni Kuin people. They're the tribe from Brazil, and they are known as the people of the smoke. And I thought that was already funny because I'm into moody, dark stuff. So I'm like, of course, Leo gets the tribe, the people of the smoke. I learned that they are the people of the smoke. One of the reasons is because they include marijuana, cannabis, in their life and in their ceremonies. So they smoke cannabis while taking ayahuasca. And I think they are one of the very, very few groups that do this. So it was unusual. And the shamans that came were brothers. So they had this very special bond. And when they sang, you could just feel the ancientness of them, their connection, the land, their brotherhood, how their souls intertwined and came through their music and song. And I got to kind of live with them for a couple days before and after because my friend was hosting them at her house and I stayed there. So I felt like I got a very immersive experience, even though we had a group of about 30 of us. It was just great. They only spoke Portuguese and a little bit of Spanish, and of course, their native language. And so we did have a translator most days, but it was mostly just enjoying being in the kitchen with them, eating meals with them, just laughing, finding another way to communicate outside of our typical language. So even just living with them for a while kind of stretches your psychic abilities. You remember that connection is just connection. You don't need words. You can meet people eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul, and that's plenty. The other interesting thing about this journey was I went with a few friends of mine. So I had me plus 3 friends that were brand new. So we had this little corner of us all huddled together. I felt like I was Mother Goose, just kind of keeping an eye on them. And the self was really diverse, which I appreciated. The guy to my left was 85 years old. He was there with his wife of the same age. And so we had our kind of newbie group in the corner, then him. It was his first time too. So I kind of had a row of us. And I was like, okay, Leo, I know you're here for yourself, but just keep one eye open on this row of new people. And the guy that was 85 was going in. Let me tell you, he did not come to play. He ended up taking like 4 or 5 cups in the first night. I took 1.5. He took 4 or 5. The shamans had to tell them to slow down. The next day, they were like, okay, that guy needs to chill just a little bit the second night. But he was awesome. And so, yeah, there were a lot of different layers to this journey. I had my best friend that I grew up with, Emily. She was hosting and organizing, and there's 30 people. So I'm trying to be in friend mode too, just giving some love and support to her and keeping an eye on all the new people that we brought. And it was just it was a really nice group, and it was really healing to do it with friends. Of course, I had Emily the first time, but I don't know. Of course, going alone, there's a magic to that too, because there's the anonymity and you really get to see who you are solo. But I do almost everything like that. So to me, it was actually healing to have friends there and us have our little corner of friend love and connection. And the other cool thing about the Huni Kuin is they're very lax with some of the rules. They're a lot more open and flexible than some of the other tribes. So you could talk to each other, you could touch if you needed to. There are some medicine circles where you're not allowed to touch or engage because everyone needs to be kind of in their own journey and not be disturbed or not interrupt a process. Or we're also learning self-sufficiency in this process. So not having that engagement kind of gives someone the opportunity to move through challenge on their own without leaning on others. And so even though our friend group, we didn't really need a lot of support from each other, I think having the camaraderie was like an energetic force that supported us underneath. And yeah, every once in a while I'd tap on my friend and be like, are you good? I had my friend Steph to the right of me. She was just curled into a ball. She didn't move for I swear like 5 or 6 hours. I'm like, is she dead? This girl, not a wink, not a sigh, not a nudge, not a deep breath, not a nothing. This time we had 2 ceremonies, so I've done 5 total. Every single journey, my nervous system just gets a healing and a recalibration. So my legs are flapping up and down. I get a lot of jerks and shakes and twitches like for hours and hours and hours. And it's not uncomfortable. So it's just the contrast was really funny because my legs are going up and down off of the ground for like 3, 4, 5 hours. My girl Steph was just curled into a ball, not moving. I'm like, girl, are you good? Do you need anything? And she was fine. She was in the zone. That was just her journey. She just dropped super deep and it didn't have a lot of movement. It was very internal and loving and graceful for her. So she was good. So all in all of us had beautiful journeys. My friend Emily killed it, leading and organizing and holding the energy down of all these people and getting the space beautiful. And our other friend Taylor on music and guitar. And so yeah, the organization and the space and the logistics are a big part of it. And that all went smoothly, and so that was very helpful compared to my frigid journey from last time. I've been writing and reflecting a little bit about what I'm taking away from this second round. Here are some of the things that stand out for me. One is that you can do a lot of healing before a ceremony like this begins, whether it's plant medicine or otherwise. I think that when you commit to change, kind of what I was talking about earlier, my first round, I had not committed to change inside of myself. So that means energetically, I wasn't really available for the support to make the change that I actually needed to do. But if that door is closed inside of my energetic field in my mind and heart, then there's only so much any form of medicine can do for you. Like, it's not going to do the work for you. You still have to make yourself available for change. And then, of course, make the actionable steps afterwards. For a lot of us, the ceremony is kind of the first phase, and then the real work begins after. The integration is integral. So, my first takeaway is that I made myself a lot more available to healing and change. And that became more clear when I signed up for this second round, because I was also trying to get out of it, to be honest, because my first round was so intense and challenging. I didn't know if I wanted to, if I was ready to do that again. And so I was going to come as a volunteer for the second round. And then the shaman said, no one's allowed on the properties or on the premises unless you are participating in the medicine. And I said, well, you got me, gal. You got me again. I was just going to come, be in friend mode, support, make food, cook, clean, drive, pick up stuff. You know, there's always errands and things when you're running an event like this. So I thought, I will be errand boy and I'll be in friend mode. And that is my contribution. I'm still supporting the medicine, even though I'm not taking it. And they said, think again. And honestly, I'm really glad that they did. It really worked out. So even in that moment when it came, I was frustrated for about 2 seconds, and then I realized what was going on, and I said, okay, Leo, just get over it, because obviously there's something bigger at play happening here, and this is greater than you. So listen and take that in, and just show up with as much openness as you possibly can. So that's my first takeaway. So in doing that, that very first night when I signed up to attend, my shadow work began. Mama Ayahuasca started showing up in my life, in my dreams, in messages. It was very, very quick. I lay down to sleep that night and I go, okay, so I'm going back for round two. What's my journey going to be like? And it was like, bam! She did not waste any time getting to work. And I'm very appreciative of that, because my two ceremonies were much lighter and had a smoothness to them and a grace and a compassion and care. They felt more like integration sessions than shadow work sessions, and that's exactly what I needed. So I was very happy with that, and I attribute that to, number one, I took less this time because I just didn't need a huge blast off for where I was at personally. And number two, I did so much healing prior to me actually arriving for ceremony that day. So those two things combined, I think, helped me have the experience that I needed. And everyone is different. That's the one that I called in that I felt would be best for me. And I was glad that I made myself available prior to the journey for shadow work. So as I was referencing before, there were just a lot of things in my life, parts of my lifestyle, substances, habits, ways of being, things with my schedule, my calendar. There were just ways that I had set up my life that created an environment of support and also toxicity. And so I felt like I was constantly in a seesaw, especially a few years ago, not so much in the last couple of years, but it was kind of like you're working on something, you're whittling it down, and then it's okay, so when you just kind of pull the trigger, get this thing out of your life, make the change and stick to it. Not like, oh, like, I'll see how I feel and maybe we'll flow with it and it'll be intuitive. No, if someone or something that you're bringing into your body or your energetic field is not working for you consistently, at some point you just need to make the decision. There needs to be the energetic commitment to yourself that you're no longer going to consume whatever form of toxicity you're bringing into your life. And that, again, that could be through relationship, through physical substance, through how you just live your life, over scheduling, over planning, over busying. That's a form of toxicity. There are endless numbers of them. So when I made that commitment prior, I got to do a couple solid weeks of shadow work before my ceremony, and I feel like that made for a much lighter experience overall. So yeah, one of my takeaways is less can be more. And I've been thinking about this theme a lot because this comes up sometimes with my clients. They can sometimes feel like the more subtle, the less intense or dramatic or emotional sessions, they can make the assumption that they did less or it had more subdued effect in their subconscious, and I do not believe that to be true. I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of a greater intensity of experience must mean a more profound version of healing, and I do not subscribe to this belief. I think you can do an immense amount of healing and do it in an integrated, graceful, more drawn out, smooth process. I don't think it needs to be this giant go to the top of the mountain and then you go down the other side of the mountain and you integrate. I think that is one way, and that can mean that the healing or thing we're working on can become more obvious because it's in our face. But I don't think that our evolution and our healing needs to be intense, especially if that's what you're healing from. If you're healing from a version of intensity, emotional dysregulation, binge eating, addiction, or really traumatic childhood, if your foundation is intense, you don't need your healing to be as intense. It needs to be as thorough. It needs to be as in depth. It needs to go to the depth of your intensity. But the experience of your healing does not necessarily need to be intense. What I mean by that is you don't need to take the most amount of ayahuasca. You don't need to go to a bunch of retreats. You don't have to do multiple sessions of X, Y, or Z every week. You don't need to be having these giant purges or huge releases or big emotional outbursts in order to reach that depth. So that was one thing that I really integrated, and that was a seed that I planted going into this. I made that very clear intention that I'm on this path of a more integrated healing system and a smoother nervous system overall. And so I want my version of healing to mirror that. And so I took less ayahuasca. That was another thing that I just didn't know the very first time, that you could ask for a particular amount. Maybe everyone does it differently. I know some shamans just kind of look at you, read you up and down and say, this is your cup. But for the most part, what I have heard from peers is that you can ask for the amount that you want. You still don't really know how much that amount is going to affect you. So I always recommend taking a baby dose first, using that as a gauge and then going from there. But yeah, I just took that to heart this time. Like, okay, this is my experience. This is my intention for it. I did so much healing prior. I'm going to take a smaller amount and I'm going to use that just as a catalyst. That's the other thing. You can take a major dose of whatever plant medicine and go all in, and there's a beauty to that, being totally immersed in the realm of that plant. You really getting to know that plant and yourself in conjunction, in relation to one another. But also you can take a smaller amount and use that as a springboard, as kind of a window of opening to go into the topics that you need to. And because I made myself more available to healing, I didn't need a large amount to go into the things I wanted to heal. I just needed to get the ball rolling, and then I was off to the races, and I could kind of keep the momentum myself. And the other fun thing is that I absolutely went all in on the marijuana during my ceremonies. The second night I went up the most, more than anyone else. Like, second half of the night I was just chilling, and they're the people of the smoke, and I personally do not really like marijuana. My energy does not vibe with cannabis. I don't know why, because I feel like I would. It kind of seems counterintuitive because my natural state is so chill, but I think that's the problem. It's like I need things that lift me up a little bit. I usually go for things that are stimulating. So things that make me more chill, I'm like, where do you want me to go? Like, I'm already here. And so weed usually makes me socially awkward, sometimes a little paranoid, just I feel strange. I'm like, this is their medicine, ayahuasca and cannabis. So when the hell am I going to have this other time to do this again? So all the second night I was up there, and every time I went to go up, the shaman knew exactly what I was coming for, which was great. Like you can go and get hape or sananga or more ayahuasca all night, and I was like, no, I'm coming for the marijuana. I'm having my cannabis journey tonight, which was the last thing that I expected. But again, it's like we're in the spirit of doing something new, having a new experience. These are the people of the smoke. This is so rare. You think I'm going to pass this up? Like, my entire life has basically been for the side quest. I do things for the plot. And that was one I was not going to miss. And it was lovely. It was smooth. It was gentle. I feel like it helped me integrate in real time. I felt like I got to know them, the tribe, more. And 10 out of 10 recommend. And another thing that I took from all this is just how healing it is to make formal time to step away, to be in a completely different environment, to surrender yourself to people that are really living this life full on. In general, I think the people of the plant medicine path from the Western world too, but the native people and the people that support them are really like the unsung heroes of our society. Like they are doing so much for the general energetic field, for the ley lines of the earth, for the grid, for our planetary ascension. They are such stewards of this place, this planet that we live on. And I think they deserve the utmost respect. And I think whether you're into plant medicine or not, taking formal time to completely step out of your normal routine, put your phone on silent, turn it off for a few days, and surrender yourself to a greater amount of wisdom that another community or group of people or just a collective might have for you is always profoundly healing. I'm someone that likes to do things solo. I don't really like groups that much, to be honest. I don't attend a lot of group stuff. I don't take a lot of live classes. I like to watch them on my own and do everything in my own way, my own pace. And I think I'm becoming wise enough to know when there's a limit to that and when you need to bring in other forms of support. And also that it's not always just one-on-one stuff, because that's also where I'm more comfortable. So I think I stepped a lot more into using my voice, being present with everyone, being seen. This is a few years ago, but I used to just have a really shaky voice. I used to hate public speaking and sharing vulnerable aspects of myself in front of a live group. I remember when I did my first hypno training, I had the mic and we just had to introduce ourselves. And I was like, "Hi, I'm Leo. Hello. Anyway, here's the next person." I don't even remember what I said, but I, yeah, it was just never my thing. And that was something that definitely made a lot of progress on this trip. I felt like I could sit up tall, I could take my time, I could articulate myself well, and I didn't have as much nerves as I usually do. And I think that's just a testament to what you're doing in these containers. If you're going in to heal stuff that goes so deep, it's going to reach these places. And it's not always linear. It's not always saying you're now healing your public speaking or being seen or being visible. Like, I think even the shaking and having the medicine move through my nervous system and give me a somatic healing cleared stuff out. And sometimes you don't realize until you're actually in an environment that used to scare you or intimidate you or make you feel strange, that you go, oh, I'm seeing myself in a new light. This is a different version of me. I'm a lot more comfortable here. That's really cool. I didn't even know that got healed in my journey until I was in this environment. And those are things you will only see about yourself really if you're in a group. That's the beauty of a group. It reflects things back to you. Most of all, yourself. You get to see yourself in relation to everyone else in a community. So I saw a huge improvement in my presence and in my voice. And I attribute that to the practice of getting out of my comfort zone and doing things like this. And also in general, I feel like in order for me to go as deeply as I want and need to go with my clients, I need to be going even deeper within myself. I can only meet you as far as I have gone into my own self. And I am telling my students this all of the time. Our personal healing, our evolution never ends. I don't care how many certifications, how many things you've done. We are an ever evolving being. And our clients are as well, all the people I'm supporting. And so I think it would be kind of foolish and ignorant for me to not put myself in places that are uncomfortable, because that's where you're going to see yourself in the most honest light. I could see myself all those other times holding back, hiding, cowering, a little nervous, not sharing my full truth, or if I was stumbling 100 times as I made it through. And so to see the progress I made in that was huge for me. And even being able to do videos like this, everything takes practice. And I'm proud that I continue to put myself in those places where I can see my own self reflected in a more honest light and see the progress. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of any other things, any other big takeaways. I think the other interesting thing that's been on my mind from this is I feel like ayahuasca is aware of all of the times that you engage with her, that you take her medicine on the entire timeline. So I think that what I am taking now from my first round of ceremonies that were intense, that I felt seemed a little open-ended or somewhat confusing for me, I am now taking those journeys in a different way, and it's shining a new light on them now that I have done this. Because if I'm honest with myself, if my first round was not intense or challenging for me, I think I would not have prepared in the same way for this round. So all in all, I had really beautiful, wonderful journeys. I'm so glad that I went back. I'm so glad that I got to make more sense of my first ceremonies and really see that even though something is challenging, it might just have a payoff much later. Like there's a greater wisdom. There are more eyes and ears and support around you than you realize. And some things, some challenge that you're moving through might not always make sense in the moment, but I can promise that if you keep your perceptions of it open, it might be years from now, but that could come full circle in a way that is even greater in terms of healing than if you just got what you wanted in the first place. So be down for the ride. Where are you going anyway? We've got a long journey here. And in essence, the journey never really ends. Like our existence, our experience just keeps going. So I highly recommend ayahuasca if it calls to you, if you feel that tug in your heart. She's a powerful medicine. She's strong. She gives you what you need, not always what you want, and it can be in a very non-linear way. She works in a very non-linear way. And I think after you've met with her and worked with her a little bit, you can continue to tune in and connect to the essence of her beyond your ceremonies and bring her medicine more into your life. And when it's more in your life, you're more in your energetic field, I think it gets to engage and interact with everyone around you. And I think that's one of the magics of plant medicines. They are here to be seen and experienced and to travel through our collective consciousness. And so by bringing it into our bodies, we become a host and a steward for a time. And I consider that a great honor. So these are my insights for the moment. I'm sure there will be more. If you have particular questions, please let me know, and see you on the other side.